The sickness was intense. I've never felt like that before in my life. It was just hell. My mom's dad's side, I really lost because of my drug use. I would sell drugs to people, and that was a really big regret of mine. Like, I used to steal drugs off people. I used to steal money from people.
Hey, it's Lupe for What's Happening in Washington County, and in the studio today is Sebastian Francis to tell us about his new vision for the future. So tell me a little bit about what you're working on.
Well, I'm going to be working on public speaking for recovery, for addictions. It's going to be more focused with teenagers, so that way we can bring them to the focus of how bad drugs can be after using them for so long, and it's an epidemic, and it really needs to stop.
How did you first get introduced to getting into drugs? Or
teenagers were smoking weed, and I seemed like the coolest thing to do, so I started smoking weed, and it felt good to smoke weed, so I just continued smoking weed. And then after that, I started drinking alcohol and got into other harder drugs.
Like what kind of things were you doing?
Well, when I first started doing an actual narcotic drug, I was probably 15, and I started doing Xanax, hydrocodone, Percocet, and it wasn't really a habitual thing. It was just a party thing every now and then. And then when I was 21, I think 22, 21. I really started getting into oxycodone and got really heavy on that.
Now, how'd you get it? That kind of thing.
Well, see, when I was 21, I got in a car accident, and the doctors prescribed me prescription medications, painkillers. At first, I was on hydrocodone, and then that just didn't cut the pain, so they started using me on oxycodone, and then they upped my dose to 60 milligrams a day, and then after that it just went downhill.
What was the point where you decided this can't happen anymore?
So I guess when I got to the point of no return, I decided that I was just sick of being tired, sick of being sick of wasting my money on drugs, sick of waiting for the next script, sick of people hounding me for drugs. I was just sick of it all. I just got tired of it. The sickness was intense. I've never felt like that before in my life. The sweats and the aches and the irritable bowel movements, and it was just hell. I don't know how to describe it in any other words as hell.
And did you have friends and stuff that helped you and things like that?
I mean, I guess I had my grandmother and my mom, but my mom was still using at the time, so she kept me off the edge. So when I was coming down, she'd give me a sliver of Suboxone and call it good, and then I'd be fine, and I'd wait for maybe a couple more days, and then I'd do another sliver, and then I'd call it good, and then
so you slowly
got off of it within a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks.
And what was did you have a motivator in your own mind, or you just didn't want that sickness anymore?
I think that was the main motivation.
Yeah,
it was the sickness. It was really, really overwhelming.
So you hit rock bottom for you.
For sure.
And then decided, I'm not doing this anymore. Yep. So what's driving you right now, and what do you want to do?
Driving me right now, I guess, would be my family. I have my own little family. I have my girlfriend and her daughter, which I consider as my daughter as well, and those are really big motivations. And also I have a following with people that are really looking to me for inspiration and looking for me for help, and I really feel like I can do some good in the world with that, so it's another motivation.
Now, if you could go back and when you first started, What would you have done different as far as not doing the drugs? Or
I probably would have stuck to weed
yeah,
and called it good.
called it good there. But basically, it was prescribed to you from the doctor, right?
Yeah, the medications were prescribed, but as they say, it's a really bad drug to become addicted to. So,
yeah.
I mean, the doctor even told me, it's not really good for me to be on this medication, and you need to come off it, and I just wouldn't. So.
And now, did he keep prescribing?
Yeah, he kept on feeding me the medication because I kept on telling him I was in pain.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in pain, but I wasn't in pain. Like, I was just in pain from coming off of it. So when I came off it, I became in more pain.
Well, what are some of the things you went through? What did you lose? Maybe what?
Yeah, I lost a lot of family members from it. My mom's dad's side, I really lost because of my drug use, and they just distanced themselves from me, and it hurt a lot, and it still hurts today because they still want nothing to do with me. But I still keep on going, and I'm still doing me, and I'm still doing good now.
And then you said that you lost an uncle, or
yeah. Last year, December 2018, I lost my uncle Bill to a heroin overdose. He was in a car with another girl, and the girl overdosed with him, and they had one Narcan nasal spray thing, and she used it, and that was it. She used it after she woke up, and he didn't wake up.
Oh, wow. How would someone get a hold of you, and then what are you going to talk about?
So I guess you guys could get a hold of me. I have an email, savagemusicmanagement999@gmail.com. You guys can get a hold of me there for booking. You guys can get a hold of me there for people that need help, if they need to talk, if they need like a sponsor kind of. I mean, I wouldn't say I would be a sponsor, but I could act as a sponsor and like help them go through their rough time that they're having that they want to use, so I could talk to them and help them get away from that. And I've actually had a few friends come to me and say, "Hey man, I'm just about to go crazy and go ham." And I'm just like, bro, you have a lot to live for right now, and you've been sober this long. Why would you ruin it now? You have your family, or you have kids, or you have friends that really care for you, and even if you didn't, it's just really, really bad road to go down. And you don't want to go down that road and then use the same amount that you were using and then go and overdose because you're not used to the drug.
About what amount would cause an overdose?
Depending on the person, depending on the weight, depending on the drug too. Heroin right now is really bad, and it's cut with fentanyl and different other drugs that can be really harmful to you. And even just one line, even 0.2 of a gram of heroin could kill you. And people do grams of heroin, and it's crazy.
And let's talk a little bit about what you would cover.
We'd first cover the grounds on drugs. What kind of drugs, what do they do, what they're going to do for you, and the addiction part. We're going to talk about how you get addicted, what you lose, what you go through, and then the recovery part, what you have to gain back. You just have to do way better than you were doing, because no one's going to believe you, no one's going to trust you, no one's going to want to be around you. So you're going to have to go through all the crap, and then you finally get to your stages of you're doing good for yourself, you don't care what anyone else thinks, you just do good for yourself, and that's what you have to do. That's what you have to focus on, is just do good for yourself.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the things that you did that you wish you wouldn't have done, or that kind of thing.
I guess a few things that I wish that I never did was, like, I used to steal drugs off people. I used to steal money from people. I would sell drugs to people, and that was a really big regret of mine, of selling the drugs to the people, because I was enabling them to go and get high and ruin their lives even more. And it's really one of the things that bother me, is that I ruin other people's lives. And I mean, when it comes down to it, yes, it's a choice, but without the drug dealer, there is no choice. It's just really hard on that. I guess a few other things that I regret would be just spending all of that money. Like, I spent thousands and thousands of dollars on drugs, and I could have used that for a car, I could have used that for a house, I could have used that for anything besides that, and it's all gone. I have nothing to show for it. And that's another thing, is I have nothing to show for any of my drug use.
Now, what are some of the things you did, like as a drug dealer or a drug, someone that's doing drugs? What are some things you did that most people don't know, as far as like how you went about doing things, like getting things, and especially around here,
Yeah, I guess like going to the health center and seeing all these people that aren't exactly doing good for themselves. Like, they don't look good, and you can tell. You can just tell that when people are using drugs, and you can tell if they're getting prescriptions. You can tell if they're okay or not, and then you just start like reaching out and saying, "Hey, if you go without, come to me, and if I go without, I can come to you." And it was just something like that, and then it started off like that, and then more and more people found out that I was dealing drugs and doing drugs, and so they just started coming more around, and more people flocked. Word spread, and that was that. Word spreads fast on the reservation.
Yeah. And what are some classic signs that someone's starting and maybe and fully into it?
I guess a couple signs. Like irritability. If they're jonesing, if they're going through withdrawals, then they'll have a really, really high sense of irritability. Like, they're on edge all the time, unless they're high. And if they're high, you can tell because their eyes will be dilated. Their voice changes. It's completely different from when they're sober. I guess their appearance as well. If they are not looking well, and they are like not dressing as good as they used to, like they used to have like a persona where they keep themselves nice and clean and all that. Well, it changes as you see them, and they stop taking care of themselves. They stop dressing nice. They stop doing everything. They just focus on the drug, and that's it.
Now, let's talk about a little bit about the reservation. Not to badmouth anybody, but
for sure,
what's going on over there?
Well, the reservation is, I mean, it's not, I wouldn't say that it is a dead-end place, but I would say that there is lack of hope. There is lack of people that want to do something with their lives. I mean, some of them, I'm sure they have their aspirations, but it's hard because the reservation is so poor, and most of them don't have cars to go to work, and if they wanted to work, most of them have criminal backgrounds, so they can't work, and it's like a never-ending cycle, and it needs to be a change. I don't know, like.
Now, how'd you feel when you were young? Like, is that did you sense that, or did you feel that when you were 13?
No, I guess I really didn't feel that way when I was 13, because I was doing all the stuff that they were doing anyway, so it was just a cycle. So I was just in the groove, drinking, drugging, partying, doing all that stuff that everyone else is doing, and just like forgetting the fact that this place needs a change. It needs more positivity. It needs more activities. It needs more stuff for adults. It needs more stuff for teens.
What's something that you think might have helped you?
Things like activities to do, like maybe have a program where they can get funded for maybe going whitewater rafting, or a hunting trip, or
So basically, keeping
busy for sure. I mean, when you keep busy, you don't want to do those things. As long as you're having fun and your endorphins are going, you don't want to get high. You just want to have fun. You don't want to be miserable and be down and just sitting there. I mean, if you're not doing anything, because the reservation, there's nothing to do. If there's nothing to do, you get bored. And what happens when you get bored? You want to go out and get high. You want to go out and get drunk. And it's just one of those things that you just do because you're bored. There's nothing to do.
Yeah. So that's what causes a lot of it.
Boredom, for sure.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and wrap it up and tell me again, let's go over what you're going to be doing and what you want to do.
So I'm going to be doing public speeches on addiction, on recovery, helping teens find their way, helping adults find their way to not want to use, to want to do better and change their life. My name is Sebastian Francis, and I'm from the Passamaquoddy tribe, Sabayag Reservation, and my contact information would be savagemusicmanagement999@gmail.com if you want to get a hold of me for just a talk. If you need someone to come and speak for a younger group or an older group or a mixed group for addictions and recovery. And if parents would like to know what telltale signs that your child is going through addictions, or maybe they're trying drugs, or maybe they just are experimenting, you could also contact me for that too.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.